Ready? Okay. Good evening. We will now call to order the February 1st, 2016 meeting of the Public Works Committee. And can I have a roll call, please? Here?
Here.
Here.
Myers?
Here.
Here.
Thank you. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes of the December 2nd, 2015 Public Works Committee meeting. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any additions or corrections to these voluminous minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Before moving to our first presentation of the evening, I did want to take one moment this evening to publicly thank Ed Micolo, Angelo, and all of the members of the Public Works Department. We got walloped with a big storm a week ago, and they worked under very difficult conditions to bring the township back to life very quickly. So we appreciate your leadership, and to all the members of the Public Works staff, thank you for a job well done. We'll now call on Pete Simone from Simone Collins to provide a presentation about the Abington Township Master Bicycle Plan.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just going to pass out, I don't know if I have copies enough for everyone, but this is the executive summary of the Bicycle Master Plan, and I'll talk about that in a second. Again, thanks for your time this evening.
Could you pull the mic? Make sure the speaking is
Oh, sure. This one? Yeah. We're at the end of almost a year-long process where we've been working with our committee, and this is a list of our committee, and I have to say it's been a very diligent committee. Everyone has made most of the meetings, and we have given to the township or presented to the township our bicycle master plan, and we are at the sort of the end of the process here. The plan has been in draft review for the last couple of months. We've gotten a number of comments. We've incorporated those. We've enhanced the detail on some of the maps. We've added additional design solutions to some of the systems in the bike trail. We've updated cost estimates. The only thing that really remains is for the final tweaks to the executive summary that I just passed out. That's not the final printing. We just did that in-house. When we print those for you, it'll be a little more polished in terms of the final printing. But we would like you to take a look at it and let us know if you have any comments. It's meant to give the reader, an overview of the system in 5 or 10 minutes so that they don't have to pour through the entire report. We are scheduled to come back to the full board on February 8th. One of my colleagues will be back for hopefully adoption of the plan. He will answer questions if there are any. And also I'm going to review real quickly with you the TAP application, Transportation Alternative Program that was submitted on behalf of the township on January 8th. Some of the detailed mapping, we added things based on suggestions from various committees and staff with the mapping showing more detail. So when you see the full report, you'll see that those have enhanced details. The executive summary I already mentioned to you, and that's in front of you. Also, in the last few weeks, we've added additional detail. This is just one. This is the crossing, the proposed crossing at Easton Road and Rubicam Streets, where Rubicam is sort of offset from Easton. And this is the proposed solution that our office and Traffic Planning and Design, who is our partner on this project, worked through in terms of an on-road crossing and how that is proposed to happen. This is actually part of the TAP application, so if this goes forward, this will be reviewed by PennDOT, and if we're successful with that application, we'll work through final details to do that. So things like that were added to the plan. The TAP application itself is highlighted here. You can see it goes from the vicinity of the Ardsley train station down Jackson Street, around the cemetery, through township-owned open space, across Susquehanna at a signalized intersection into Rosalind Park, where we would upgrade the existing trail through Rosalind Park, and then down, I think it's Thomas Street, and then further to the west, down to Evergreen Park and Crestmont Park. We would do some improvements in Crestmont Park, and then down Rubicam, across Easton, and down to the Crestmont train station. This was submitted, as I mentioned, to DVRPC and PennDOT on January 9th. The cost of this section of trail is $929,000, and that's the application to TAP. They fund all the construction, including construction observation fees, and that's what that number represents. Also, in terms of design and engineering, we've estimated those costs at $207,000. That will be the basis of an application that we will make on behalf of the township to DCNR on April 13th for the design and engineering. So if we're good and lucky, we might get this project without any significant local money. That's the ideal. Certainly, when this gets reviewed by TAP and the committee meets on February 12th for that $900,000 number, they may suggest something less. If they like the application, if they can't fund the whole thing because there are a number of applications, they may suggest a lesser amount, which I think certainly we could work with. The maximum amount on a TAP application is $1 million. Working with township staff, we felt let's shoot high and see how we do. So we'll hear about that application probably in May. If it doesn't get awarded on the local level, it goes to a second round where we compete on a statewide basis. And one of the things that this route has going for it, it connects to 2 SEPTA stations, it connects to a school, a couple of parks, so it has all the bells and whistles that transportation agencies like when they're looking at these types of applications. So that's really all I have for you tonight. Again, we've been before you before, and we've worked a lot with staff, and again, the committee's been excellent. So if anyone has questions that I can address tonight, I'm happy to do so.
Any members of the committee have questions? Commissioner Klein.
I just wanted to make a comment. I wanted to commend Peter Simone and Simone Collins and TBD. They did a great job, very thorough in putting together the master plan and working with township staff. It was a pleasure to work with, and hopefully we'll have a blueprint to start putting together some other modes of transportation in the township and start to de-emphasize the car a little bit and get some modes of transportation through different neighborhoods. And glad to see this coming to an end and starting to look at implementation. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Other comments or questions from commissioners? If not, should we move into PW1, Michael?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. So our first item of business this evening is PW1, which is the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission Transportation and Community Development Initiative Grant Program and Simone Collins Landscape Architects. This is a motion to approve final township master bicycle plan. The plan has been prepared by Simone Collins Landscape Architecture in association with Traffic Planning and Design, and I so move.
Second.
Are there any comments or questions from the committee? Members of the board? Staff? Members of the audience? Hearing none? All those in favor? Aye. PW2. This is the Edge Hill Road, Tyson Avenue Flood Control Street Reconstruction Project Reimbursement Agreement, number 064132-B, Supplement C. And this is a motion to approve Pannoni Associates' proposal for reimbursement agreement number 064132-B, Supplement C, for Edge Hill Road, Tyson Avenue Flood Control Street Reconstruction Project in the amount of $593,082.43, which includes services for Part 2 final design. And I so move.
Second.
Are there comments or questions from the committee? Commissioner Klein.
Yeah. Can we get an explanation and a breakout of what the $593,000 is and how that's broken out? I know there was some additional charges in here.
There are charges for relocating the stream or the pipe inside the cemetery property. They're the bulk of the charges, but there are also traffic light charges down at Edge Hill and Tyson. I believe there was a recommendation from staff to upgrade those lights down there to the newer set of lights. So they're going to be part of the project rather than just have the township pay for it. PennDOT will pay for it when the project is underway. There are some other charges for like environmental concerns that DEP has below the Ardsley cemetery property that we bought. Everybody wants to look at the downstream concerns now, and there are charges for surveying and doing the work for that area too.
Is that all broken out somehow?
It's broken out to about a 20 or 30-page document. I didn't attach it to this, but that is in my office.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be interested in taking a look at how that's broken out, so if you could send that to me when you get a chance.
Sure can. If any of the other commissioners are interested in reading it, I mean, I can send it to all the commissioners. It's strictly up to you guys.
And then I had one other question. So out of the $593,000, how does that work, and what's our obligation in the end? I know we have to put the money up front and get reimbursed, but what's our obligation?
Our obligation is 20%, which is about $120,000 of the 593. The rest of it, PennDOT pays for the rest of the costs.
And will we be allocating another $600,000 from unrestricted to restricted fund balance?
We're working on-
Is that the idea here, or are we just using the same pot of money that's already been restricted and using it because we got reimbursements?
Right now, we're using the same pot of money, and we're hoping as the reimbursements come in, we can stagger or figure out a way to, instead of taking any more money out of fund balance, there's $1.7 million in there. As the reimbursements come in, put that back in to make up this $600,000, so we don't have to take any more out of fund balance. Kevin's looking at it right now. We haven't worked out all those details, but we have a year or two to get that all arranged.
So, but in the end, we're going to be using an additional $120,000 out of fund balance
That's correct.
in the end?
In the
Okay.
end, yes.
All right. I'm just glad we have the fund balance and we haven't spent it like crazy like some people wanted to do in the budget. So, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Are there other comments or questions from commissioners? Commissioner Myers.
My question has nothing to do with the budget. Mike, at an earlier meeting, we had residents and folks from the Environmental Council that were expressing some concerns about Hillside Cemetery. Do these changes take some of the points that those people made into consideration?
They take all of their points into consideration. This whole proposal is wrapped around, most of it's wrapped around what they would like us to do with the cemetery property and below the cemetery property to make sure that everybody's protected under flood control and the trees are protected.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Spiegelman.
Thank you, Director Hecker. Mr. Powers, these proposed changes, sort of the rerouting, which represents the bulk of this almost $594, $94,000, excuse me. This isn't going to add any significant time to the actual execution of the Edge Hill Tyson flood remediation project, is it?
We have several timelines on the project. The most important timeline is the right-of-way. Michael Clark's office is handling that. He's doing an excellent job, by the way. I want to give him a plug for that. We just had a meeting. We handed out some of the packets over the weekend. I hand-delivered over 100 packets to the property owners to keep the project moving. This will move along in the same time frame with the design. The problem is that all the right-of-way has to be in place before final design can be done, because if there's some change because of the right-of-ways or some change that goes on, that can affect the design, and that always affects the timeline.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Gillespie.
I do have a comment. First of all, Michael, you did a great job, because there was a meeting the other night, and how many people showed up? Maybe about a third of the people showed up.
There were
And
about
the
20 property owners.
And the packets have to be hand-delivered and signed for. So you only have a certain amount of time, so you did a great job. I had to mention that. And so did Michael Clark.
Any comments from staff? Residents? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Moving on to PW3, 2016 HUD program. And my understanding is that this agenda item is a placeholder for board action at next week's Board of Commissioners meeting once the bids are received. And I'm going to turn this over to Mike Powers for explanation.
Yeah, we have 4 projects for HUD. 2 of them are on state highways, so we need detailed plans to go to PennDOT for permits. So I've got the proposals out for bid. Unfortunately, one of the projects, I believe, is going to be taken off, but I have a separate line item for each project. So when I get the final total, there'll be one project less. It'll only be for 3 projects instead of 4. But the timeline we have to follow because unfortunately HUD didn't get their approval to get their money started until last week, and I believe that money has to be spent by August or we get fined, so we're trying to move as quick as possible to get this whole thing out to bid and get it built.
Okay. Even though we're not actually making a formal motion on this, are there questions from the committee or other commissioners?
I do have one question.
Okay.
Will
Commissioner Klein.
will all the bidders be given the same information as far as what we have, what the township already has as far as survey information and?
Yeah, on this one, it's all clean projects. It's all new. We really don't have a lot of information. Nobody else has worked on this, so everybody will be in the same playing field. There were 7 proposals put out. 5 people came to the meeting, so I'm hoping to get at least 3 out of the 5 or all 5 proposals from the engineering firm.
Thank you.
Commissioner Spiegelman.
Thank you, Mr. Hecker. Mike, are you sure which of the 3 projects are definitely going to move forward, or are you still trying to figure out which 3 of the 5 proposed or of the 4 proposed?
We know that Niles Sir Avenue will not be moved forward. That was determined today.
Okay.
So the other 3 will move forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. We can move on to PW4. PW4 is sidewalks on the east side of Rockwell Road, and this is a motion to authorize township staff to take bids to construct sidewalks on the eastern side of Rockwell Road from Roy Avenue to Old Welsh Road, and to encumber up to $125,000 from the general fund balance, and I so move.
Second.
Before turning it over to Mr. Powers, I just want to take a moment to explain the background on this. This is something that is in my ward, and as many of you know, the issue of pedestrian safety has been a paramount issue for me in my relatively brief time on the board. It was something I learned about as I was running to represent the community, and then in late 2014, I think we all remember the tragic accident that caused the loss of life of a 9-year-old girl who lived on Rockwell. And so for the better part of the last year, we have been working together with all of the departments at the township to come up with mechanisms to make Rockwell Road safer. We increased the lighting in the area where the accident took place. Ed Micolo and his team narrowed the lanes on Rockwell Road. We worked with the police department to lower the speed limit from 35 miles an hour down to 30 miles an hour. Yet there's still more work to be done. The residents on the road remain concerned about the ability of they and their children to walk safely up and down Rockwell. The situation is further compounded by having the Crestmont train station at the intersection of Rubicam and Rockwell Road. It's a heavily traversed area, people either walking to the train or taking their cars to and from the train. And in the last couple of weeks, we also have come to learn that the Edge Hill Road Bridge Reconstruction Project is set now to begin this coming September. And although the official detour route will not be on Rockwell Road, I think we can all assume that a significant number of the vehicles traveling on Edge Hill will detour onto Rockwell because it's just a natural passage. And so I view it as a fundamental obligation on our part to improve the pedestrian safety conditions on Rockwell. And I've been working with members of the township staff on a plan that would get us to the point where we would install sidewalks from the portion on Rockwell from Roy Avenue up to Old Welsh Road on the eastern side. And what this does is that it provides a contiguous safe passage from Old Welsh all the way to Edge Hill. So pedestrians, children, people who are taking the train to work will have the ability to walk safely on one side of the street. Coupled with this, we've talked with the police department, and they have agreed that with the installation of the sidewalks that we will be able to, later in the year, make Rubicam and Rockwell a 4-way stop sign regulated intersection. And in addition, this would also enable us to put in crosswalk to allow safe passage from the eastern side of Rockwell to the western side where the Crestmont train station is located. And so that's the background behind this. I think this is an imperative public safety measure. I would greatly appreciate the support of the committee and the full board when if it comes forward next week. Thank you. I'll open it up for comments or questions. Commissioner Myers.
Thank you. I agree that this is a really wise expenditure. I don't know how it's going to be done for this amount of money, meaning that this seems very low to me, to allocate this low amount for such a long stretch of sidewalk. But I think it's absolutely necessary, and given that the train station is there, it's really something that will affect not only the residents, but pedestrians that come a little bit outside of the area to go to the train station. So,
Okay,
You have my support.
we had based this off a previous bid that we've had on Old Welsh Road, and actually the number was a little smaller. I made the number higher at this point because we were told by our solicitor we need to go out to bid, which I think is the proper way to go. I'd rather go out to bid than tack it onto another project. So it's going to be a little more expensive than what we initially proposed, Tim and I, because of getting bid bonds and having the competitive bids. Which might be nice is, if we're lucky, the contractor that did the work on Old Welsh Road will bid, and the numbers will be within the reason. So we think we're in pretty good shape as far as the number is concerned. The other reason we're doing this is for ADA of the train station, to make sure that the blind and the people in wheelchairs can get to the train station. We had to do this on Jenkintown Road for the same reason the state came and said that the township had to provide sidewalks. These are new sidewalks. They're not replacing anybody's existing sidewalks. They're totally new sidewalks to comply with the state regulations and the requirements of public safety.
Other comments? Commissioner Klein.
Mike, is any of these funds accessible to the property owners if the township chose to go that route?
You
Or
can
investigate that route?
You can go through an assessment process and do that, and you can assess the property owners. However, we had set precedent in the past where we were trying to meet ADA requirements. We did not assess the property owners for that reason for one time. After this, the sidewalks become the responsibility of the homeowner, and if they ever crack or have to be replaced, it is the homeowner's responsibility to replace them and also to shovel the sidewalks.
We will have that conversation? I'm sorry, I missed the last part of that. We will have that conversation?
Well, we have had that conversation, yes. We have that with the residents and so forth.
Yeah, because that was going to be my next comment. I had mentioned that to Commissioner Hacker, because I've had a couple instances where I looked to try to get sidewalks in my ward, and I would have been hung if I actually put sidewalks in, because, I mean, the reaction to most people in my area, now there are sidewalks in this area, so it's a little different.
There are, in
The areas
some
we were
places.
talking about, there were not too many sidewalks, so there would have been a rare property for that.
You never have 100% of the
No, I
people
know
on
that.
board, but we do know that a majority of the people do want the sidewalks, and the majority of the people are willing to shovel them and maintain them in the future.
Yeah, because that was always the biggest complaint, was the maintaining them and taking care of them in bad weather,
That's correct.
so.
Yeah, Commissioner Klein, if we do ultimately get board approval on this, my intention then would be to hold a community meeting in this room with all of the affected residents to walk through the particulars, including the understanding that the maintenance of this would be the responsibility of the homeowner moving forward.
Okay, great, thank you.
Commissioner Rothman.
Thank you. What would the timing be for when this goes out to bid?
It'll take about a 2 to 3 month period, because I've got to put together a plan, specifications, and get it out to bid. So I would say at least 2 months, maybe 3. It depends on how fast we can get the plans together.
Thanks.
Commissioner Spiegelman.
Thank you, Commissioner Hecker. Without totally repeating everything that Commissioner Hecker very rightfully said, as a lot of folks here know, you'd be hard-pressed to find a non-state road in our township with the complexities and difficulties of Rockwell Road. It's a mixed zoning, residential, industrial area. The houses themselves are quite closely packed with the equivalent to R4 zoning. And while the area where these sidewalks will be built are in Ward 10, the street itself runs also through Wards 5 and 11. And I can tell you that these safety improvements, both the sidewalks themselves and the resultant crosswalk at Rubicam, which cannot happen without the sidewalks, and the four-way stop at Rubicam, are of paramount import to the folks who live in the Ward 11 section of Rockwell Road. And I do want to publicly thank Commissioner Hecker for all of his tireless work on fighting for these safety improvements. And it's appreciated by folks well outside your ward.
Thank you. Other comments or questions from commissioners? Staff? Residents? Good evening. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Brian Keister. I'm at 1761 Rockwell Road, so I am one of those residents that it would be affecting. I've got a couple thoughts, and first I'd like to thank everyone for continuing the discussion to make this area safer for all of the residents. One thought is this has become very personal for me because I just found out my wife and I are going to be having a baby girl at the end of July.
Congratulations.
Great.
Thank you. And the thought of pushing a stroller out on Rockwell Road is not an option for us. And, you know, my wife and I were thinking what an inconvenience it would be to have to pack up our car and drive somewhere just to take our baby for a walk. And so I just wanted to offer up that perspective of things. Also, even with the reduction in speed limit and such, putting a four-way stop sign at that intersection, I think for the residents in the area, it would make the area feel more like a neighborhood. I think you'll find more folks outside and able to take a walk without having the fear of having to walk on Rockwell Road itself. And I think you're going to allow for more camaraderie amongst the residents within that area, and ultimately that'll be a much better way of life or just an area to want to live in and increase the quality of life for the residents. And that's what ultimately it's doing. And that's really all I want to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Any other members of the audience? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. We'll now move to PW5, which is a bid award for ready-mix concrete. And this is a motion to accept the lowest responsible bidder and enter into a contract with Delaware Valley Concrete in the amount of $19,923 for the purchase of ready-mix concrete as per bid specifications, and I so move.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Commissioner Klein.
Yeah. Ed, this was the number, is that what we had figured in the budget for this year?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions or comments from other commissioners? Staff? Members of the audience? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And PW6, this is a bid award, Super Pave asphalt paving material. This is a motion to accept the lowest responsible bidder and enter into a contract with Eureka Stone Quarry for Part 1 of the bid in the amount of $690,000. Also, Eureka Stone Quarry for Part 2 in the amount of $43,200 for the purchase of super paved materials as per bid specifications, and I so move.
Second.
Any comments or questions from the committee?
Same question, Ed. I assume we had the same numbers in the bid. Were we able to, have we seen any savings in any of these bid numbers?
Yes, the super paved materials came in much lower than we had paid last year, which we had anticipated was going to happen, and which will allow us to do more streets than we had anticipated earlier in the year.
And you attribute that to the lower fuel costs?
That's correct.
Or lower petroleum costs in this case?
That's absolutely correct.
All right. Thank you.
Other comments or questions from commissioners? Staff? Members of the audience? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
We will now open the meeting to any general comments about matters of public works from the audience.
Commissioner Hecker, before the public, can I just make one comment?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Commissioner
I
Klein.
wanted to thank, I had a meeting here last week on Old Welsh Road Sewer Project. I wanted to thank Mike for helping set everything up, Tim Clark for being there, George Wrigley, Mike Philmeyer was there, Kevin Barron was there. We had a good presentation with some interesting neighborhoods and interesting comments when we'll continue on with the project. But I wanted to thank everybody for showing up and being supportive and answering the questions. So, thank you.
Now, Commissioner Gillespie.
Thank you, Commissioner Hecker. I just wanted to comment, Mike Gillespie and Ellen Bard worked for years to try and get a bicycle path, and I opened this flyer, and who's on the bike? That's Mike riding on that bike. So he got in there one way or the other.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Commissioner Farron.
Thank you, Commissioner Hecker. Just a question, I don't know if I should be asking Leonard Lefevre or to whom I should direct this, but as we're moving towards a more bike-friendly community, have we explored any of the bike-sharing options? I know Indigo in Philadelphia is very popular with people, and I know that's a little cart before the horse because this isn't up and running, but have we looked into anything like that?
Just on a superficial basis, we'll pursue it further as we progress in the bike plan, but we have just touched base on it initially, but we haven't explored it in depth.
Okay, can I ask how many bike share programs, or we've only looked at the big ones? The big ones?
At this point, just the big ones.
Okay, thank you.
I can actually add to that. The county is working with their bike share provider, who the county, what was it, a year or two ago, Jody? Yeah, Zagster. They put in 3 separate bike share areas. One was at the Pennypack. One was all the way up in Phoenixville, and third was down near Schuylkill, near Concha. Yeah, there you go. And they're looking to expand the bike share program for the county and also open it up to municipalities to buy into the same pricing from Zagster and use that platform to expand if municipalities want to get involved, so that they have a connective plan or a connective process or program throughout the entire county. So, and they're working on putting together details for that, and we'll open it up, and are looking to open it up to other municipalities as they get it all together.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Okay. We'll now take comments from the public. Name and address for the record, please.
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane, and I do want to congratulate you on the work on the bike trails. Everybody is going to appreciate that. What we have in already is a wonderful improvement. So, and I want to mention one thing quick, because you were just talking about the county trails and the bike shares and all. Another quick thing that's happening in the county is they're talking about putting little advertising, it's promotion, not advertising, into the parks along the trails. I hope all of you would oppose that. There is no end. Once that starts, the cat will be out of the bag and there will be no end. They want to promote the art programs and the cultural programs. It's wonderful that we should know about them. And if they keep them at the entrance to the park, that's one thing. But to put that along the trail when our parks are our last place that we can go and really see nature, not advertising. I hope everybody will oppose that. The one thing I wanted to invite you to do as the head of the Public Works Committee, and I'd like to invite all the committee heads, is to join with me and help reinvent what got into the website somehow. I had sent some examples of how a Public Works agenda, for instance, could be in the website, where you would have the Public Works issue, and then you would have the documents, a link to the documents, a link to the video, a link to the minutes, a link to everything that went with that Public Works meeting on one line. I'd be happy to share that example with you. Somehow, even though that was shared before the website was being constructed, it didn't get done that way. It's all over the place. Okay. And you have to click to this page and that page. So I hope we could work together to change that. It would really make it good for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments from members of the audience? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
It's where I hold my stress. Well, it's one of several places I hold my stress.
Call to order the Code Enforcement and Land Development Committee meeting for February 1st, 2016, and may I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Sanchez?
Here.
Markman?
Here.
DePlacido? Capone?
Here.
Gillespie? Here.
And Commissioner DePlacido is excused for the evening. First, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the December 2nd, 2015 Code Enforcement and Land Development Committee meeting, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The minutes are approved. First, tonight we have CE1. This is subdivision SD 1505, Priceless Homes, LLC, 130 Fisher Road. This is a motion to approve the subdivision application of Priceless Homes, LLC, owner of the property located at 130 Fisher Road, Abington Township. The applicant proposes to subdivide the property into 2 lots. Lot number 1 will contain the existing single-family dwelling on a lot of 13,108 square feet. Lot number 2 is proposed for development and is plotted at 12,885 square feet. Both lots comply with the dimensional requirements of Section 303.3 of the zoning ordinance. Both lots will be served by public water and sewer. The property is zoned in the R3 residential district in Ward Number 4 of the Township of Abington and is subject to conditions and waivers as listed in the agenda, and I so move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Mr. Penical is the...
I believe
Mr.
Mr.
Mazzett.
Penical is going to present this application tonight.
Commissioner, I apologize to you. It's, as it's listed on the agenda, you do have 2 lots. It's the existing house. The application is to create a second building lot. It will conform with all the dimensions, the dimensional requirements of the zoning ordinance. It was presented to the Planning Commission as well as Montgomery County Planning Commission has weighed in on this. The Planning Commission of Abington had 2 issues with this when it went through last week. They wanted a condition added that 2 additional street trees be planted along the frontage. And then tonight in front of you is a photograph of a structure, and then the attachment that's behind it is a slight modification to that structure. This was presented at the Planning Commission meeting. The builder committed to build the house that you see in front of you. With the one modification, it'd be a side entry garage, so that you will not have the double garage door facing the street. 3 of the Planning Commission members have weighed in on that the night of the hearing. Mr. Russell, who lives around the corner, his comment was that this would not be an intrusion or an eyesore in the neighborhood. After sending out this photograph and the rendering to the balance of the Planning Commission, Ms. Gouthier and Mr. Cooper weighed in that this seems to be the fit we're looking for with the stone, the shutters, the doghouse dormers, and they were happy. Originally, the Planning Commission was not in favor of granting the waiver for the architectural plan. I would tell you with this photograph and the rendering that you have, that satisfied that condition. So I would ask that that waiver be removed from the agenda item that you have in front of you this evening. This will be served by sanitary sewer. There's an Act 530 exemption application that was submitted with the application. The one other item that you may want to know about, this application has been on our waiting list for approximately 3 years, waiting for an EDU to be freed up for our flows through Cheltenham Township. So when George was able to secure us EDU credits earlier this year, we mailed to the owners that were on the waiting list that we had. This is one of the ownership groups that have responded and moved forward with their application. So I'm sure I can answer any other questions the board
So
may have.
are you saying the planning commission like the front entry or the side entry?
No, they do want the side entry garage, sir.
Commissioner Gillespie.
Thank you. This isn't, I mean, this is a picture of the house, and this is not the property, but they will have plenty of room for their turn and all that, because looking at this, you're like, excuse me? They'll never be able to turn their car.
No, the lot itself, Commissioner, if you give me just a moment, I can give you specific.
And the side entry is definitely the best choice.
No, it shows the driveway. I have it. The lot frontage here, Commissioner, is.
Let's show the driveway on the side here.
The gentleman that's speaking to you, you want to introduce yourself there?
Sure. My name's
Yes.
Jim Zaskell. I manage a member of Priceless Homes. And on the drawing here, as you can see, this is the proposed dwelling, and there is a driveway that would serve as a side entrance
Plenty of room.
garage.
That's great.
Right.
And side entry is definitely the best.
Yes.
Thank you.
And are there existing sidewalks there?
I believe that there are, but I'll be honest with you, I should know that.
Yes, sir. They're shown on the plan as existing walks.
Gotcha. Great.
curb gutter sidewalk that's there.
And not asking for a waiver, I see, either.
No, sir. There will be a modification to that will allow for the driveway apron, but a permit will be required for that.
Great. Now,
Oh, yes, I apologize to the board. Larry and I both had the opportunity to speak with Commissioner DiPlacido today. This is in his ward to make sure he was comfortable with this. Jimmy relayed to both of us that he has not heard from any of the surrounding neighbors. Notices for this application were sent out at this point over 3 weeks ago. We did not have anyone avail or attend the planning commission meeting. And I'm not sure if anyone's here to speak either in favor or opposition this evening. And Commissioner Sanchez is directly across the street from your ward.
that's correct. Right around the corner from where I live, too. So you lost me on one thing, Mr. Penicow, on the, so they don't need a waiver from the, were you saying remove the waiver from the architectural plan? Or
Yes, sir. I think the photograph and the rendering of the side entry garage modification meets the intent of an architectural plan.
So you want to keep the waiver?
Now, the waiver can come off.
They can come off, they don't need it. They supplied architectural.
But are we waiving the plan?
And then add the condition. No,
The architectural.
Yeah, I added a fourth condition there that the two additional trees be added along the lot frontage.
Okay, so that would be added.
The property owner's in agreement with that?
Yes, sir, they committed to that at the planning commission meeting. The owner's here this evening if you'd like to hear it directly from them.
Fine. Oh, wait. What's the dimension from the side of the house, the right side of the house, to the edge of the driveway, up against the property line? When you're backing out, how much distance do you have?
Want me to answer that?
I can't read it on.
Approximately 30 feet.
I'm looking on the plan. I can't read it. I can't read the numbers.
The drawings I have in front of me, Commissioner, it's approximately 30 feet.
That's fine.
Okay. And how far off is the edge driveway to the property line?
I believe that would be about 4 feet.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? I would just like to see the stone go up a little higher. I know that's not in our purview, but if you look at the homes right around that, they're mostly stone with, wood or kind of the, at least the clapboard up top. So, just take that into consideration. I know that's not our bailiwick, but maybe you'll consider it. Commissioner Gillespie, I think, has another design comment for you as well.
As a realtor, I think, is there storage over that garage, or is that a room?
It'll be in, let me use the mic for
This I know is, but I just want to know.
it. It'll probably be an unfinished room.
But it will be a room.
It was identical layout, and it was an unfinished. I'm not the builder, man. I'm just the owner. I'll just sell you to the builder.
Oh, well, I got to see him then.
Going up right now. Probably an unfinished room. It could be finished.
Okay, thanks. I'm not even going on with the other one then, since you're not the, thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Comments from the audience? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have CE2. This is ordinance number 2102, an ordinance amending Chapter 162 zoning, Section 2102 floodplain conservation overlay district. This is for information only. A public hearing will be held on Thursday, February 11th, 2016, at 7:30 p.m. on ordinance number 2102, the floodplain ordinance. I don't know, is this your show, Mr. Powers, that you were...
Actually, this is a Mark show, but I just wanted to let you know that...
Sorry. Sorry, Mark.
That's all right. We had one comment from one of the property owners down on Wanamaker Road. They're not in the floodplain now, but they're going into the floodplain. They were very concerned about the advertisement of all this. I did some research today. It took me about 2 or 3 hours because FEMA wouldn't answer them, but I did find out that this was in the Times Chronicle in 2011. It was advertised when the preliminary plan was set up. Unfortunately, there are going to be quite a few homes that are going to enter into the floodplain with the new floodplain regulations and the new floodplain mapping. There's nothing the township can do about it. We're just following the rules. And I'll just turn over to Mark now.
Did you want to, Mr. Panical, the
I'll give
zoning
you
officer?
Just a brief overview. The ordinance that you're going to see is an update of our existing floodplain ordinance that's currently within the zoning ordinance itself. It was part of the zoning rewrite that's been ongoing now 4 years plus, 5. The reason it was pulled out and put into a separate ordinance is because we have a timeline to adopt this. That timeline is March 2nd. All of the items that have been very important to Abington Township over the years for floodplain management have been carried over into this new draft. The floodplain affects, I believe, 11 of the 15 wards that we have here in Abington. The important factors to this thing are your setbacks for any type of new construction or any new building are still measured from the edge of the floodplain line. We're still not allowing development within the floodplain. There is newer language in here now. Abington Township was substantially built out prior to the adoption of the FEMA regulations in 77 and 78. So for those of you that have homes that are in the floodplain, myself being one of them, if I was to replace my air conditioning unit today, it would have to be elevated 2 foot above flood elevation. We were required to add in regulations to speak to mobile homes and things of that nature. This was it started out as the county's model floodplain ordinance and was amended to fit the needs of Abington Township. So the hearing will be at your board meeting on the 11th, and I can answer any questions you may have about what we formal hearing.
This has been vetted by the planning commission, our planning commission, and
It's
the
been
county's
reviewed by
environmental.
Drew Shaw, the environmental planner from Montgomery County, is who our point of contact through FEMA. As I said, it started out as the county's model ordinance. It's also been reviewed by our planning commission, and we're extremely fortunate at our planning commission level. One of the gentlemen that sit up there is Dr. Weigel, who has a doctorate in engineering, and his specialty is hydraulical engineering. So it's extremely beneficial to me to have somebody with that kind of expertise sitting on a planning commission advising me on what we should and shouldn't do with floodplain.
That's great. President Luker.
Mike, has the official floodplain, or has the floodplain officially been changed?
Yes, the floodplain has officially been changed. We have, like I said, March 8th to adopt this ordinance, and then this will go into place. This will be effective. The new floodplain maps will be effective.
So my question is, those residents who no longer are in the floodplain, at what point can they contact their homeowner's insurance to, or vice versa?
Beginning of March, they can do that, because then...
Beginning of March of 2016.
Right, 2016. The new plans will be effective.
All right. Are any notices going out to homeowners from FEMA, the township, the state, or any governmental agency alerting them of this effective date change?
We have notified the people in the past that they are in the floodplain, especially the new homeowners that were added to the floodplain, just so they knew this was coming. But we're, not obligated to notify. It's on a case-by-case basis. We actually took the FEMA floodplain maps and overlaid them in our GIS system, so we could easily figure out how much of your property is in the floodplain. If you look at the FEMA maps, you can't tell anything by them what the properties are in the floodplain or what are not. So it's really on a case-by-case basis, because not 100%, many properties, not 100% of their properties in the floodplain. A piece of their property may be in the floodplain, and we don't have a control over if you want to go for a loan. Your bank could require you, even if you just have a piece of your property in the floodplain, they could require you to get out flood insurance. It's a trick between you and...
So that's part of my question. So how does a homeowner know when he or she is or is not, unless somebody notifies them?
They can contact our office. We have a list.
Yeah, but generally when you go to get a mortgage, The mortgage company will look at it, and they'll notify you you're in a floodplain and tell you have to get flood insurance. And it's-
Well, the reason I ask that, suppose there is an event and they sustain damage, and they, the point comes that they said, well, I didn't know I needed flood insurance, or,
Well, you're not required to get flood insurance. You, as a homeowner, it's at your own risk. What triggers that is if you go get a loan on your property.
Okay,
Bank-
so Michael.
bank is
So,
what
so
triggers it.
the interesting part, so what you're saying is if they already have a loan on your property, generally, the mortgage companies are not smart enough to be aware that there's a change. They generally only check when you get a new mortgage. So, and then your insurance company, potentially when you bind your house with insurance, they will check as well and charge you a higher rate if you need flood insurance, or tell you you can't have flood insurance. So it's, the triggering event can be either a mortgage or your change of insurance.
Carol, I think,
Yeah, it's expensive.
Commissioner, if I can, my mortgage was recently sold. For years, we had Abington Bank, it transferred to Susquehanna. I haven't paid flood insurance since '97. The rear 25 feet or 30 feet of my property is within a floodplain. The lot itself is 280-something feet deep. Susquehanna Bank was recently sold to BB&T.
right.
And I got a lovely notice in the mail from BB&T that they would now like me to carry flood insurance. So I had several years ago contracted with a private engineering firm, had a topography study done, the floodplain line plotted for my property. I'll be sending that in to my mortgage company for evaluation. And we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, if your actual physical house isn't in the floodplain, because we have this all the time, you can always argue that you shouldn't have to get flood insurance. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't, depending on the mortgage company.
The issue here with the maps, just so the board's aware, Abington Township did not enter into any kind of challenge when the maps were put out. The maps were first shown to us, Michael, what do you think, 2009?
That's correct.
Yeah.
The maps first came out in '09. There was a period there where anyone could challenge the maps. Abington Township, or ourselves, we included notices in everyone's tax bills that went out notifying that the new maps were out there for review. Michael's had the maps available on the webpage. Even as they've progressed through, there's been several amendments to it. Those maps, as of a month ago, were still up on the webpage. I'd have to go back up and look. This has been out there. This all dates back to 05 through 07 with the Temple study that was done. What we are doing on the 11th, we're required to do federally. If we do not have floodplain regulations, Abington Township residents will not be eligible for flood insurance. We've always had floodplain regulations. The first set that were adopted was back in 1978, and they've been amended through the years. Our last update was in 1996. So, we have a hearing scheduled. I hope we do well. Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Rothman.
I'm sorry, I don't mean for us to jump back in, but I'm still not sure of the answer. People that are being brought into, covered under the new plan, do we have a plan, sorry to use the same word twice in the same sentence, to let them know that they are now affected? And also the reverse. I'm not sure that I heard an answer as to if we are going to.
The answer to your question is yes. There's a flyer that was put out through FEMA. As Michael said, his department did an overlay and identified the 12 properties within a floodplain. I committed to Commissioner Spiegelman, Commissioner DiPlacido, Commissioner Shriver this year, that we would have these notices out by midweek, and I hope to stay on that course.
Okay.
Can we post, you sent a list of the properties that were being included, new FEMA maps in the floodplain. Can we post that on the website so commissioners can refer to it in their newsletter so that people can check? And if they wanted to see the specific way in which the floodplain affects their property, they can contact the engineering office. Is that possible?
Yes, I believe,
Scan it in and put it in.
I could do the Excel spreadsheet. I don't want to do the actual names and mailing, but I could put the address.
No, just the addresses.
And the zones. As far as what, not the zone, the flood zone. There's two different designations within it. And they're identified on the Excel sheet Michael put together for us.
Okay. Commissioner Spiegelman.
Thank you, Commissioner Sanchez. Mark, or I guess maybe for Mark or for Mike, a couple of questions. Is there an appeals mechanism for individual homeowners who are being brought into the flood? I've been asked this.
FEMA has an appeals process. You will have to, as a property owner, you're going to have to spend some money. And I don't mean to make that sound wrong. Good. I hired Protract Engineering at a fee of $1,500 to do a survey plan of my property. I consider that to be fairly inexpensive.
Compared to flood insurance.
I contacted my insurance company this year, and they're looking for $1,480 yearly in flood insurance.
Well, if I can, the thing about FEMA is, they're using aerial photographs, they're using they're routinely wrong. The problem is it's very difficult for a homeowner. For me to do it as a commercial developer, it's very expensive and time-consuming. And even if you're right, sometimes they won't accept that. But for a homeowner to do it, $1,500 is actually cheap. It becomes a burdensome, long process, and it's a shame because there's not an easy way to do it. And you could be way out of the floodplain, and because of just a mapping error, you could be considered part of it. But there is an appeal process. You'll probably end up spending between hiring experts and other things, $2,000, $3,000 just to get a determination, and you don't even know at that point whether they're going to agree to it or not. So it's very difficult.
I do see, though, just mathematically, given the cost of flood insurance, there are folks who might consider that. So I just, if there is a, without rewriting vast amounts of FEMA legalese, if there is a link to an explanation of whatever mechanism FEMA has available for their appeals process, if you could share that with us, that'd be great, because I know I'm going to get many more questions about this even than I've already gotten.
And Commissioner, the flyer that you were kind enough to find on the back
That high-quality, beautiful flyer in PDF form?
The back page of that has the appeals process and actually the website and the phone number to call to file your appeal.
And we actually have Mark Penical, and he's not very shy about helping people with this sort of thing. So.
He's not shy. No, he's not shy at all. And yes, Mark, thank you. It's my job to find the flyer. I didn't say I read the flyer; I just found the flyer for you. Just in terms of numbers, I think you said we're going from 600 and something homes to 800 and something homes. Is that?
We're currently right now at 634 properties within the floodplain. We are going up to either 810 or 812. The difference with that, Commissioners, are strictly just that there are more areas that were mapped as far as this study than what was mapped in the past. Commissioner Klein was in to see us. There's two parts of his ward that are now mapped and included in with the floodplain that weren't mapped previously. So those properties are now added to the list. There's some other properties as we move through the Vaderwood section that are now mapped actually as part of all the work that Mike's done. Some of the properties come out of the floodplain, however, more of it's mapped, and some properties have gone in. As far as the run along the Sandy Run, Michael, that pretty much has remained unchanged.
That's correct. The biggest problem is the floodplain in 1979 was based on 5 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. The floodplain is based on 9 inches of rain on a 24-hour period now. So the flows are much, much higher, and it's very hard to, FEMA's very not willing to change their map. They've seen increases in flooding. Fortunately for Abington, we've done so much work in Abington. We did get some considerations for all the work we did in Abington, and they did help us in some areas to lower the floodplain.
Well, thank you, Mike and Mark. Thank you for all your work on this. I can't imagine it was particularly easy. So, thank you,
Commissioner Schreiber.
Thank you. A couple of things. First, kind of piggybacking on that about the appeals process, and as you know, Mark, I've sent several people to you. The So part of my area, and going into Commissioner Bowman's not here this evening, but right next door to me, they often think it's my ward, but it's actually Commissioner Bowman's. People often think or get notices that they are in the floodplain or they move in or whatever, and like their next door neighbor is not. And so that's some of the ones that have been referred to you. And when you're talking about the Sandy Run, well, the work that's been done, some of them have not had any flooding, as I know you've had that process. So I'm wondering if, this is my first question, some of the work that we have done, if that could be used in some way in lieu of the experts and different things, if people go into that appeals process?
Well, I'll try to answer that for you. FEMA won't reduce the floodplain along Sandy Run because, unfortunately, what controls our flows in Abington ends up in Upper Dublin. Fitzwater Town Road is the controlling factor, although we've widened the culverts under Susquehanna, the Johnson Avenue Bridge, and did all our work. You still have a backwater effect, and Fitzwater Town Road still acts as a dam, and then actually backs water all the way up into the township. So they're not willing to reduce that floodplain because of that backwater effect, not because that the stream in our area can handle water. It just can't be handled downstream.
Okay. I just thought that might come up as one of the questions. The other thing, kind of on a totally different thing, I believe you just said that there's could be no new construction in a floodplain?
Well, we have, since 1996, required your setbacks for any type of new construction, be it an accessory structure or a new home, new business, whatever, to be measured from the edge of the floodplain. If you're required to have a 25-foot rear yard, most of your ward is zoned R4, and your home backs up to the Sandy Run, your rear yard setback starts at wherever the floodplain is and then comes out 25 feet before you would be able to build. That has been on the books since '96. It remains unchanged. In the time that I've been with Abington, we've had 3 variances that were granted to build within the floodplain, one of which was rather substantial. It was Rydell Park. They built their parking deck, which is an open-air structure. It doesn't impede the flow of stormwater. And we've had 2 residential decks that were built that extend out over a floodplain. However, their first floor elevations were at least 2 foot above flood elevation. So these were projects that had to go through the zoning hearing board. If you're going to the zoning hearing board, it's extremely expensive. You need engineered prints, you need FEMA approval, you need Army Corps of Engineers approval. The plan needs to be reviewed by Abington Township Planning Commission and Montgomery County Planning Commission, and then and only then can you come to the zoning hearing board. So it's a lengthy, time-consuming, and rather expensive process, and we just don't see it. Or at least, in my time, 3 cases in 20-something years.
Unless you happen to build apartments in Conshohocken or King of Prussia.
Those street signs are not red and white.
Commissioners, to answer the other question, since I don't have a microphone, Mark sent the floodplain information to all this past Friday, so it shows you the properties in question, and so we'll send that out again, and hopefully we get that on the webpage. Okay, so we get that done. Thank you. Thank you.
I just have one quick question. Suppose I saw the numbers increased from 634 to 810.
That's correct.
Hypothetically, if you were a homeowner whose house came out of the floodplain, don't you need some sort of document to verify to your insurance company that you no longer require flood insurance? They're not going to take your word.
What you will do is you can come to our office and we'll Xerox the portion of the map that shows you're out of the floodplain, and you provide that to your carrier, whoever, and that should be sufficient information to handle that.
So the bottom line is they come to engineering.
We just try not to write letters because people could get flooded. If you're along a stream, you can get flooded at any given time, and the township does not want to be responsible for that flooding to occur to the home.
Gotcha.
So we try to stay away from writing letters.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Manager LaFever has been
Thank you, Commissioner. For the board's information, in addition to distributing the FEMA brochure to the 800 and some homes and also posting that on our website, staff is trying to arrange a community meeting with representatives of FEMA to come out to Abington and meet with these 800 homeowners and explain the appeal process as well as some maps. If we're successful in getting commitment from FEMA coming out, we'll probably have to hold that meeting in some other venue than this room since we won't be able to accommodate a real large crowd. So we'll keep you posted on our efforts, but we're hopeful within the next month to schedule such a meeting.
You know, if that's possible, you might want to have an insurance expert there as well, just to talk about the implications of being in the floodplain and how they would view it. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Anything else? Commissioner Heck.
I don't mean to belabor the point. I just wanted to get clarification. So for the individual homeowners who are no longer in the floodplain, what is the triggering mechanism for them to become aware of that, to start a process where they can appeal to their insurance? Is there any notification to the homeowners coming out of the floodplain?
How many came out? I mean, you know, you had a net increase, not that many.
There wasn't that many. I think most of them are Commissioner Luker's word. I would have to see. I have to see the new maps to make sure. But I don't think there were many that came out of the floodplain.
Yeah.
I asked that because I've been getting hit with that question
Right.
since 2006.
So, you know, I guess if you can look at that and just kind of distribute.
I mean, should we notify these homeowners that they're no
The
longer...
commissioners at least, so they can.
Yeah.
We'll notify them that they're no longer in the floodplain, but I'm not going to notify them not to get flood insurance.
Oh, no, I'm not suggesting you wade into that,
It's
but just...
really their determination whether they want to drop their
Agreed.
flood insurance.
But
It's
absent
not-
some
not something we're
notification from
recommending.
us, there wouldn't be any triggering mechanism unless they went to refinance their property or sold their property to somebody else. There wouldn't be any way for them to find this out.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any comments from the audience? And, all right, on to CE3. I know the representatives from the Montgomery County Planning Commission have been patiently waiting. This is the Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan presentation. For information only, presentation of the Montco 2040 Comprehensive Plan by representatives of the Montgomery County Planning Commission. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Jody Holton. I'm the Executive Director of the Planning Commission. Mike Narkovich should be familiar to you. He's your planner. Thank you. Sorry about that. I have to thank you for lending us Stephen Klein. He is the chair of the Planning Commission and has been the chair for about a year now, so we appreciate him.
There's an option to own with that.
That's rent to own.
Please back. I don't know. We'll see. No, it's been a pleasure to work with him. But we came here tonight to talk a little bit about our Montco 2040, our newly adopted, or it's been adopted now for about a year, comprehensive plan for the county. It's Montco 2040, a shared vision. So we want to talk about that. I want to give you a little insight into the Planning Commission, some of our roles and responsibilities, and talk about ways that we can help work with you to implement some of the ideas that are in the Montco 2040 plan.
Oh, yeah.
The Planning Commission, we have about 42 staff. We have a variety of different specialties in the Planning Commission. We have environmental planners, we have transportation planners, urban designers, we have an extensive GIS department, and community planners. We've been working on a number of county plans. Some are mandated and some are at the discretion of our Planning Commission board. The comprehensive plan, the municipal waste plan, the hazard mitigation plan, the stormwater management plans, those are mostly mandated plans that we've worked on and produced in the last couple of years. We also worked on Creative Montco. It's a cultural arts plan meant to look at bolstering the creative class and our cultural institutions in the county. So those are some plans that we've worked on this year. We're excited to complete the Walk Montco plan, which is a walkability plan talking about policies to put into place in our municipalities, our development codes, to encourage walkability in the county. So some of the things that you're talking about tonight in your Public Works Department are very, very near and dear to our Planning Commission right now and the things that we're focusing on. One of the elements of that plan was a walk audit, where we go out and take a walk with stakeholders and community representatives, and Noble Station was a focus area. Some of you were probably involved in that process, but we're wrapping up that plan and we're looking forward to releasing it soon. Other things that we work on, we have a variety of transportation projects that we work on PennDOT with during the design phase of major improvements that they're making. We also recently finished up the Turnpike Corridor Improvement Project, which is all about reinvesting in the office parks and communities along the Turnpike Corridor. The Turnpike was built a number of years ago, 50-some years ago, for through traffic. And what happened was office parks developed around a limited amount of interchanges. We're looking at how we can modernize and put in more slip ramps along the Turnpike and put the zoning in place that will be supportive of redevelopment along the Turnpike. So it's an economic development plan and it's a transportation plan. It's just an example of one of the
Can I ask you a quick question about that? So the two slip ramps that would potentially affect Abington are the Fort Washington and the Welsh Road. They're the two that would be closest to us. And potentially that would just give more access to the Turnpike from Abington Township.
It would, and it also helps to alleviate some of the issues that are experienced at the 611 interchange. So there's, as part of the plan, there's a pretty big improvement project recommended for the 611 interchange, but a lot of that congestion would be alleviated by a new interchange at Welsh Road. So it's sort of a balancing act. These interchanges are spaced pretty far apart, so we're trying to balance the volume and then also just make more efficient interchanges now that we'll have all electronic tolling. We don't necessarily need to have one point of access for an interchange. They're more compact interchanges. Okay. You can imagine that.
All right, thanks. Thank you.
It's interesting to note that when we looked at the Turnpike Corridor Plan, that if you look at the difference between I-95 and the Turnpike, the amount of traffic that travels on both of those roads is not too far off on a daily basis, and there were a third of the access points on the Turnpike than there were on 95. And so the Turnpike was built as a state road, like a state transit road going from city to city. And in Montgomery County and other places, but we're only concerned about Montgomery County, it's actually used as a commuter road.
That's right. Yeah, the average distance between interchanges in I-95 through Chester and Delaware County is about 2.5 miles, and for us it's more about 4 to 6 miles. So we've got a lot more long stretches without an interchange and the same kind of development. So just moving on, we have a bunch of other projects we work on. Model ordinances. I know you guys have been working on your zoning code for a while, so I won't touch too much on them, but Mike Narkovich will get to that a little bit later. We just recently put out a design publication called Green and Sustainable Parking Lots. All about how parking lots are ubiquitous throughout the county, but if we build them in a certain way, they can actually help our water quality and provide shading and reduce the urban heat island effects. So we put out design recommendation publications like that. We work very closely on with our Parks Department on trail development, and I think you all are probably, hopefully, have been enjoying the Pennypack Trail and recent extension there. A lot of that work gets done in the Planning Commission in terms of project development. Let's see. As part of our mission, we also look to raise the level of planning as a profession in the county. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll get better at this.
You use that one.
Maybe I'll use the other one. And providing opportunities for all of our elected and appointed officials, as well as our staff, municipal staff, to come to events that talk about planning, hot topics, and planning issues. And last year we initiated the Planning Smarter series of events, and this year we're doing the same. So we've just released our 2016 program of events. We'll be talking about solar energy and how to modify codes to allow for solar energy. We have an event on trail development. We'll actually be going out to the Pennypack and talking about the widths of trails that are appropriate and how to construct trails. And then we also have an event planned in the fall on evolving institutional uses. So how can we update our ordinances to allow for reuse of a lot of these beautiful institutional buildings that we have across the county that contribute to the community character. So those are 3 events that we have going on. We also have our 3 courses. If you haven't had a chance to take them, there's one in community planning, one in zoning, and one in subdivision and land development. There are 3 nights, pretty low maintenance, but we get a lot of information out, and it can help. I know you guys are all well practiced now in these things, but if you're interested in it, you're amongst your peers in those courses. We finish out the year with the Montgomery Awards. We've had the Montgomery Awards program since 1967. We award developments that define excellence in planning and design. And I looked back at Abington Township, and one of the awards that we gave was in 1972 to the Penbryn Pool when it was first developed. So I know you guys have just been working on some plans for that, and we're just awarded DCNR money. But at its time, it was a really incredible recreation asset that was added to the community. So we hope that you'll be eligible for another award sometime sooner than 1972. The other thing that we have online that's a good resource is all of the, Montgomery County has over 800,000 people in it and 500,000 jobs. We have a data portal that takes all the census information by municipality and breaks it down. You can compare if you're, interested in how much, Cheltenham's median income versus Abington's median income or something to that effect. You can compare and contrast various statistics online. And we do a variety of reporting on construction and land development throughout the county. So there's a variety of resources out there we use it a lot for grant applications. We have planning services. We're in 32 municipalities. It says 31. Upper Merion just signed a couple weeks ago. So we provide professional planning services, like Mike Narkovich, in over half of our municipalities in the county. Working on a variety of different planning studies. Lately, we've been doing a number of sustainability plans that helps look at energy consumption in your municipality. It's potentially a cost saver. We've been doing walk audits, which you have benefited from one of those in Noble. Design guidelines, form-based codes. There's a variety of different things going on. One of the new services we offer now is school district enrollment projections. We have 9 school districts that we've provided forecasting for, and it helps with all the facilities planning related to new buildings and potentially downsizing schools. And I believe your school district is thinking about that as well. And there's the Montgomery Awards. One of the services we provide, Mike does primarily, is look at all your land development and zoning ordinances and provide reviews. I just wanted to put a plug in for if there's ever any questions that you have or interest in potentially redesigning or working with the developer closely. We do have great landscape architects and urban designers that can work on those issues with you. I'll turn it over to Mike.
Thank you, Jody. Okay, I will walk you through the county comp plan and summarize that for you. Of course, the full county comp plan and Montco Today, which is a companion booklet of demographics and a portrait of the county, is available on the Montgomery County Planning Commission website, and I'll give that at the end. All right, and just real quickly to review some of the other MCPC support to Abington, there is participation in the committee that prepared the master bike plan, which you heard about earlier. There is coordination with the Baker study, the 611 transportation study, and that's wrapping up. If you have questions about that, you can contact Eric Ferrari at Baker. And there is the Montgomery County Trail construction. And in this last year, the Pennypack Trail was extended to Byberry Road in Upper Moreland. And that extended the trail 5.4 miles from Lorimer to Byberry. Jody mentioned that a bit. And, of course, a bridge was constructed over Shady Lane in the creek, thereby connecting Abington to Rockledge and, in the future, to Philadelphia. County open space grant funding applied to the Summerford property acquisition, the Grove property acquisition and demolition, Hillside Open Space, Jackson Property Acquisition, and Madison Avenue Floodplain. And county revitalization funding was over $300,000 to the township for projects now complete, generally in Roslyn, involving the streetscape, gateway, and the pedestrian walkway, and also at the train station. Okay, and now going into Monco 2040, it provides an overall vision for growth management, and it covers an array of topics from transportation to revitalization to environmental conservation. And like I referred to earlier, there's the two major components. There's the plan itself. Monco 2040 is shared vision. That's the second one listed there. And Monco Today, which has a portrait of existing conditions, trends, and forecasts. Generally, there are three overlapping themes: connected communities, sustainable places, and a vibrant economy. And there are goals within each of them, and many of these goals are interconnected. As far as improving the infrastructure network, the different improvements are, and you can't see it too well there, I apologize, but the different improvements have been identified. In Abington, there is a county-owned bridge on Washington Lane that has been identified as a potential rehabilitation project or replacement project. Here on this map, you can see corridors that have been identified for transit upgrades in the blue. That includes the West Trenton line, the Warminster line, and upgrades to SEPTA stations at Noble and Crestmont. With Crestmont, you have ADA and accessibility improvements. At Noble, you have accessibility and ADA improvements and the future parking garage. And the garage, if I'm not mistaken, is scheduled to go to design later in the decade. And then you also have improvements nearby in surrounding municipalities at their train stations as well. And then also you can just make it out in sort of a neon green there. You have the proposed improvements to Tyson. This shows the county trail network, and number 7 there is the Pennypack Trail. Originally, it went as far as the Abington Township line, and now it's been extended up to Byberry Road. Okay, and this just reviews some of the multi-municipal collaboration groups that exist in the county, and you can see Abington is in pink. It's a member of the Montgomery County Consortium. Okay, and for the Sustainable Places theme, there are region-wide stormwater management plans. Abington has completed 3 of them: Pennypack Creek, Wissahickon Creek, and Tacony Creek. And as part of the Sustainable Places theme, one of the goals is to support strong downtowns and community destinations, including mixed-use areas, arts and culture focal points. And one of the ways we have done this at the local level is by working on the zoning and encourage revitalization and appropriate redevelopment of the townships, villages, and town center areas. Enhancing community character and protecting neighborhoods is also one of the goals in Sustainable Places. Supporting investment in existing neighborhoods, preserving historic properties, and reinvigorating the tree canopy. And in the theme of vibrant economy, you have goals of providing better road access to employment centers and expanding transit options within them. And there you see the blue dots are the potentially expanded or created turnpike interchanges. The one below is at Fort Washington. The one above is on Welsh Road. That would be the new interchange. Within the vibrant economy theme, another goal is encouraging development and transformative investment where infrastructure already exists, So that includes encouraging redevelopment of underutilized and vacant industrial land, modernizing older offices and businesses, and locating new development in proposed growth areas. Okay, and then with the future land use vision for 2040, generally in Abington you see yellow, so that is suburban residential. However, there's a variety of other targeted land uses that generally involve mixed use that are along your commercial corridors and in your town centers. The red circles show the walk sheds around the transit stations. So those are areas for potential transit-oriented development in many cases. Okay, and please just let us know if you have any issues or concerns or you want to communicate with us. Please continue to utilize our planning services, view us as an extension of township staff. And there is our contact information. There's a website. You can follow us on Twitter at Monco Planning, like us on Facebook and Flickr, and you see contact information for Jody, and then for my section chief, John Cover, and myself.
I wanted to add before we wrap up, the commissioners at the past, in their past just adopted budget, put $1 million aside for this year and for each year for the next 5 years in what we're calling the Montco 2040 Implementation Fund. And we'll be producing a guidebook on applications or how to submit an application for the grant program. But it's to implement some of the ideas in here, and we are looking at walkability, connections to our trails, safety improvements in your downtown areas. A different variety of project types will be eligible for the program. So I wanted to put it out there and ask you to keep it in mind. I know you have a lot of projects that you were talking about earlier, so that's what we have to offer.
If I could just make a quick comment. So, as everybody knows, not much goes on in Ward 2 as far as any kind of development. It's quiet. So I kind of go under the radar. But the one thing that did happen is the trail extension for the Pennypack Trail, and the Montgomery County Planning Commission was instrumental in that. I mean, we basically took really a landlocked trail with Lorimer Park and took it 5 miles in one direction. It's eventually going to go 10 miles in that direction. So you can actually. And I've learned since I've been a commissioner, they call us the East Siders because we're on the east side. And I mean, I think everybody in this township should start considering coming over and walking this Pennypack Trail because it is literally, it rivals the Wissahickon, and the Wissahickon is a national landmark. And I think the Pennypack, actually, the views and the experience when you're on it is unbelievable. And it's a resource that I don't think we're using as much as we possibly could. And the Montgomery County Planning Commission was instrumental in that. And the other thing I can say is I probably operate as a developer in about 4 counties. And you generally get your Planning Commission letters. And the other counties, people don't really take them that seriously. They get kind of set aside. Montgomery County Planning Commission generally has very, very good comments. And I think they're taken very seriously. And it's a resource we have that I think we use pretty effectively in Abington. But just want to compliment, what goes on there. So thank you.
Other comments from commissioners. Commissioner Spiegelman.
Thank you, Commissioner Sanchez. For one thing, I will not only be coming to Ward 2, I'm actually be coming right to Commissioner Markman's house. Spend a little time there, see how things are.
Time to get a double lock.
Just buy sandwiches. I just also wanted to add my 2 cents of praise. The input and advice of the Planning Commission has been helpful beyond measure throughout the ongoing exciting saga of the Old York Susquehanna project. And I mean, really, I cannot thank you enough for that expertise. It's the Planning Commission and its collective body of knowledge are a huge resource available just because we're lucky enough to live in Montgomery County. So it is appreciated, and thank you.
Other comments or questions from commissioners? Anyone in the staff? Questions from the audience? All right. Thanks very much, folks.
Thanks for your time.
Great presentation. And then we'll take general matters of code enforcement and land development.
Okay. You welcome. Yes, I will.
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane, and I just wanted to know where we are with the zoning rewrites, where that is.
So the last we left off is we had a workshop with the Board of Commissioners, and which passed along.
On what date? What date was that? Do you know?
I don't remember the date. I'm sure you can ask,
Okay.
send
I'll
an
look it
email.
up.
I don't remember the date. But that was a public meeting. It was a workshop with the Board of Commissioners to review the comments from the Planning Commission that was developed in their 4 or 5 public meetings over, I don't know, 15, 20 hours of discussion over the zoning ordinance. We've had some follow-up conversations, but our planner, Mike Narkowicz, is working on, with staff at the County Planning Commission, the revisions. We had a meeting among myself, Mark, Larry, and we brought our solicitor involved, and Michael Narkowicz, to discuss some issues that we had to get some finality, and we're working on completing the next draft, which we will start the process over again. Timing on that is hopefully we'll be ready to start having more public meetings at the end of February, beginning of March.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, how about a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's why you were